The first time the alien queen touched my shoulder, the entire courtyard stopped breathing. 2,000 armored figures stood in perfect rows on either side of the gate. Their dark flags hung heavy, as if even the wind feared to move. Behind them rose the gray stone castle, colossal and cold, with towers that looked sharp enough to cut the sky. The palace gates were shut, segmented like the plates of a sleeping beast. I was still trying to understand how I had gone from a late shift on a nobody cargo deck to standing here, like lightning after a storm, and the sunlight made everything too real, too sharp, too final. Then I felt her hand, gentle, steady, warm, on my left shoulder. I turned just enough to see her. She was blue-skinned, not like paint, not like a costume. Fear, controlled, hidden, folded neatly behind years of training, but still there. Her mint green hair moved softly across her shoulders, and the gold crown on her head caught the sun. A red jewel sat in the center. Like a warning, like a heartbeat, her gown was deep royal blue, and the gold armor on her shoulders looked ceremonial, until I noticed the fine scratches, not decoration. Use her cape, purple and heavy, clung to her back like night. The queen leaned close enough that only I could hear her. Her voice was smooth, but tight, like a string drawn too far. "Human," she said, "you will stand beside me." And my throat made a small sound, the kind that would get a person killed in a room like this. She squeezed my shoulder once, not painful, but firm. Then she said the words that turned my blood to ice. "You will be my shield." I stared at her, because that could not be what she meant. A shield was armor, metal, energy, a barrier. A shield was not a person. The collar, why, I whispered. Her eyes did not blink, because when the gates open, she said, "Someone will try to kill me. And the only thing they cannot predict is you." My heart hit my ribs like a fist. I looked at the rows of soldiers, the flags, the stone, the towers, the silent power in every angle of the palace. To laugh, because the whole thing was insane. But the queen did not look insane. She looked like someone who had done the math and hated the answer. I forced my mouth to work. "I am not trained for this." I said, "I'm not a soldier. I am not even supposed to be here." The queen's gaze stayed locked on the gates. "Neither am I supposed to be afraid." Rolled through the courtyard like thunder. The soldiers did not move. "Is that correct?" I nodded. "Yes, your majesty, do not call me majesty," she said. "Not today, not in front of them. Call me by my name." My stomach dropped. "What is your name?" Her lips barely moved. "Siren," she said. I repeated it. Softly, "Siren." The horn sounded again. The gates began to move. The stone segments shifted with a grinding roar. Dust spilled from ancient seams. The sound was massive, like a mountain waking up. The courtyard brightened as the opening widened, and sunlight spilled into the gap. For a moment, all I could see was darkness inside. Then I saw movement, not one figure, not a small delegation, but a wave of shadows. Siren's hand stayed on my shoulder, but I felt her fingers go tighter. "They will know you can be controlled. If you can be controlled, then I am already dead." My breath came shallow. They were not soldiers in the same way the palace guard were soldiers. They moved differently. Their armor was not uniform. It was ceremonial, layered, carved, with symbols that looked like warnings to the universe. Their helmets had crests shaped like blades, and their steps were perfectly timed, not marching, performing, a procession. Behind them came a platform carried by 8 guards. On it sat a man, or something close to a man, robed in white and silver. His face was pale, almost gray, and his eyes were bright like polished coin. He lifted a hand, and the procession stopped. Everything stopped. Siren's chin lifted. Her posture changed, not taller but sharper. Like the world remembered she was the queen. She stepped forward, and I moved with her because my feet did not know what else to do. The robed figure smiled. "Your Radiance," he called, his voice echoing across the courtyard. "How generous of you to greet us in the open air." Siren's voice carried, calm and clear. "Regent Val," she said. "Welcome to the palace, Regent. That word hit me harder than I expected. It meant power without the crown. It meant someone who ruled while waiting. And people who wait long enough start thinking the throne belongs to them. Val's smile widened. "I see you have brought a novelty," he said. "A human, in your court, how?" "Very fashionable." Somewhere in the rows of guards, I felt tension rise, like an invisible tide pulling back before a wave. Siren did not look at me. She did not move her hand from my shoulder. "This is Elias Reed," she said. "An envoy under my protection." "Under your protection," Val repeated. "Interesting. Then perhaps he should stand closer." Very close. My pulse spiked. I saw it then. The way Val's eyes flicked to me. Siren's fingers pressed once into my shoulder, a silent command, "Do not move." Val lifted his hand again. The platform guards shifted position, and one of them raised a long staff. At the top of the staff, a crystal glowed faintly, like a trapped star. The air changed. The hairs on my arms rose. My teeth felt strange, like they wanted to vibrate. Siren's voice did not change. But the muscles in her jaw tightened. "Regent," she said, "this is not part of the ceremony. The part where the palace proves it is still protected. The part where the queen proves she is. Still beloved. The word sounded sweet, but his tone was poison. The crystal brightened. And Siren whispered. Now I did not understand at first. Then I felt her shift behind me. Not away, not hiding like a coward, but positioning, using me. Exactly as she warned. I wanted to spin, to protest, to step aside. But my body froze because instinct screamed one truth. If she is moving like this, it means the danger is real. The staff flared. A pulse of light snapped forward, thin and sharp. Like a spear made of soundless fire, it aimed straight at Siren's chest and I moved. I did not think. I did not plan. My feet slammed against stone, and my shoulder hit Siren's armored side. I shoved her back, and I stepped into the line of fire. The pulse struck me, for one terrifying moment. Like the world trying to crush me into a coin, my vision flashed white, and something. But something, ancient, furious. Then it stopped, like a hand cut off mid-strike. I staggered, breathing hard. The courtyard erupted, shouts, armor clattering, flags snapping as soldiers moved for the first time. Siren grabbed my arm, her nails biting through fabric. "Elias," she hissed, "look at me, look at me." I forced my eyes to focus. I was still standing. My chest was still intact. My skin was not smoking. I was not dead. I was not even bleeding. Val's smile was gone. His eyes were wide. And for the first time he looked like a man who had miscalculated. "Impossible," he whispered. Siren's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Seize him," she commanded. The palace guards surged forward. But the regent's procession moved too, fast and disciplined. A wall of white silver armored guards formed around Val. The crystal staff bearer stepped back into the gate shadow, protected Val. Lifted his hands, calm returning like a mask. "My queen," he called, "you misunderstand. That was a test. A simple test, and your human has passed." Siren's eyes were burning now. "A test," she repeated, her voice low. "You aimed a null lance at my heart." Val shrugged. "And it did not strike you," he said, "because your human stood in the way. Is that not what you wanted? A human shield, a charming little spectacle." Siren's grip tightened on my arm, and she leaned close again. "You see now," she whispered, "you see why I needed you." I swallowed, feeling the echo of that strange pressure still in my bones. "What was that weapon?" I whispered back. Siren's eyes did not leave Val. "It is called a null lance," she said. "It does not kill the body first. It kills the bond between mind and flesh. It unthreads the soul. Royal blood is especially vulnerable." I felt cold wash over me. Then why did it not work on me? Siren's throat moved, like she had to force the next words out. "Because you are human," she said. "And humans are not woven the way we are. You are anchored differently. You are stubborn in ways the universe never prepared for." Val's guards began to retreat backward into the open gates. Siren raised her hand, and her guard captain hesitated, then stopped. I realized then that if they chased Val into the gate, they would be walking into a trap. Siren's voice lifted, addressing the entire courtyard. Regent Val has violated the peace of this palace, she said. He is hereby confined to the outer city until the High Council convenes. Any who obstruct this order will be treated as traitors. Val laughed, a sharp sound. Your Radiance, he said. The High Council is not coming, not today, not when the gates are open. He spread his arms wide, and behind him, deeper in the shadows of the gate, I heard something shift, not stone, not armor, something heavier, something that sounded like chains dragging across history. Siren went still, her hand left my shoulder. And for the first time she looked directly at me, not like a queen to a subject, but like a person to the only other person in the room who might understand fear. This is why, she whispered. This is why I asked you to be my shield, because what comes next is not meant for my people to survive. The gates opened wider, and the darkness inside moved. At first I thought it was a shadow, then it stepped forward into sunlight, and I realized it was a machine, a towering figure of black metal and pale crystal, shaped like a knight from a nightmare. Its head was smooth and featureless, except for a single vertical slit that glowed faintly. It carried no visible weapon, because it did not need one. Its entire presence felt like a weapon, like a law of nature that had learned to walk. Behind it, more of them shifted. 1, 2, 5, 10. A whole line of ancient sentinels waking from sleep. The palace guards faltered, and for the first time, I saw fear ripple through trained warriors. Because this was not a rival army. This was a myth stepping into daylight. Val's voice rang out, triumphant. Behold, he cried, the Crownbreakers. The guardians of the old covenant. They were built to remove a queen who has lost the right to rule. Siren's lips parted slightly. She whispered something in her language. A short prayer, a curse, or both. I could barely breathe. Siren, I said, what are those? Her voice was tight. Ancient machines, she said, created before our houses unified. They were designed to enforce succession, to end civil war by ending the ruler. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be bribed. They cannot be frightened. I looked at the nearest sentinel. It stood just inside the gate, as if waiting for permission to step forward, and then it tilted its head slowly toward Siren. The glowing slit brightened, and I felt that same pressure again. The null energy, searching, measuring. Siren's gaze snapped back to me. Elias, she said, if it locks onto me fully, it will burn through my mind in seconds. You must stand between us. You must give it your body, your presence, your human anchor. It will strike you first, and it will hesitate. That hesitation is our only chance. My stomach twisted. So you want me to take it again? Her eyes did not soften, but her voice did, just a fraction. I am asking you to live, she said. And I am asking you to help me live, because if I fall, this world will fracture, and the war that follows will reach your worlds too. I did not have time to think about politics, treaties, distant human colonies. I only had time to look at her face, at the fear she hid, at the strength she carried anyway, at the hand that had been steady on my shoulder when everything was about to break. I breathed in, slow, then I stepped forward, placing myself between Siren and the gate. The palace guards shouted, some of them in warning, some in protest, but Siren raised her hand sharply, and they stopped. She trusted me to do what I was about to do, and that trust felt heavier than armor. The nearest Crownbreaker moved, one step, then another. The stone under its foot did not crack, but it sounded like it wanted to. Its slit glowed brighter. A thin beam formed, not visible like a laser, but felt like cold fire crawling over my skin. It reached toward Siren, searching for royal resonance, and then it touched me. The pressure slammed into my chest again. My knees bent, but I held. My vision narrowed, and a ringing filled my ears. Inside my skull, something tried to pull at me, to unfasten me, but it could not find the right thread. Because I was human, because our minds are not elegant, Not refined, not clean. Our minds are messy, layered, angry, full of stubborn survival. I gritted my teeth, and in that moment, a thought rose clear as a bell. This thing is trying to unmake me, and it is failing, because it has never met a species that refuses to be unmade. I heard Siren behind me, voice urgent and controlled. "Captain," she said, "to the inner doors, now. Lock the council chamber, activate the sun shields, bring the resonance cages online." Someone shouted that the systems were old, that the council chamber was not meant for this. Siren's reply was sharp. "Then we will make it meant for this." The beam intensified, my arms shook, my lungs struggled, but I stayed standing. Val's laughter echoed from within the gate. "Look at him," he called. "Look at your human miracle. He's already breaking." I wanted to shout back, but I did not waste breath. Instead, I did what humans do when something stronger tries to crush us. I adapted. I shifted my stance, putting more weight into my legs. I lowered my center, bracing like I had learned in zero-gravity accidents. I remembered straps and crates and physics, and every time I had been thrown around by forces that did not care if I lived. I did not fight the pressure head-on. I redirected it through my frame, into the stone, into the ground. The Crownbreaker paused. Just like Siren promised, a machine pause, a calculation. A fraction of a second where it did not understand why the null lance was not working as designed, why the human anchor did not unravel, why the target behind me remained untouched. Siren moved. I heard her footsteps, fast but silent. I felt her slip past my right side, her cape brushing me like a shadow. I did not look. If I looked, I would break focus. If I broke focus, the beam might slip around me, and Siren would die. The beam pulsed, angry, the pressure spiked, and I let out a sound I could not hold back. A rough exhale that was almost a growl. My vision flickered. But I stayed. A new sound rose in the courtyard, metal scraping stone. The palace guards were moving now, not toward Val, but toward the Crownbreaker line. Forming shields, raising weapons they clearly knew would not matter. They were doing it anyway. Because sometimes courage is not about winning, sometimes it is about refusing to kneel. Siren's voice rang out from somewhere ahead. "Hold your ground," she commanded. "Do not die for me. Live for your people. The human is buying us time. Do not waste it, buying time." That was what I was, a living delay, a stubborn interruption. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. My hands went numb, my legs trembled, but the thought that kept me upright was simple. If the universe wants me to be a shield, then it will learn what humans are made of. A bright flash erupted from the palace roof. The sun shields. A lattice of light spread overhead like a giant net. Shimmering, the air hummed. The Crownbreaker's slit flickered. Its beam faltered for a fraction of a breath. And in that fraction, I felt the pressure lighten, just enough to suck in air. I heard Siren again. "Closer now, Elias," she called. "Follow." My voice, 3 steps back. Now I obeyed, stumbling backward. The beam snapped after me like a snapping chain, but the sun shields interfered, distorting the null energy. The Crownbreaker hesitated again, recalculating. Siren grabbed my forearm. Her grip was strong, and she pulled me toward the palace entrance. The guards surged around us, forming a moving wall. We ran across the stone courtyard, flags whipping as soldiers moved into chaos positions. Behind us, Val shouted something in rage, and the Crownbreaker stepped forward. Finally, into full sunlight, we reached the inner doors, massive metal and stone slabs that opened with a hiss. Siren shoved me through first, then followed. The doors began to close behind us, but before they sealed, I saw the courtyard one. Last time, the rows broken, flags scattered, soldiers bracing, and the Crownbreakers advancing like fate itself. The doors slammed shut, locking out the sunlight. The noise, the open sky. Inside, the palace corridors were dim, lit by soft lines of blue glow embedded in stone. The air smelled like cold metal and old incense. Siren did not slow. She pulled me down a corridor that curved like a spine. Her guards followed, Footsteps echoing. Alarms began to ring, not loud and shrill, but low and vibrating, like a warning that lived in bone. "Elias," Siren said, breathless now, the first crack in her control, "I need you to tell me something. When the null lance struck you, what did you feel?" I tried to answer, but my mouth was dry. "Pressure," I said, like being crushed, and something in my head like a pulling. Siren's eyes flashed. "Did you hear anything?" she asked. "Voices, commands?" "An urge to kneel, an urge to obey," I thought back. There was something, I admitted, not words, more like a presence, furious, ancient, trying to find a door inside me. Siren nodded once, grim. "But it could not enter you, because you do not have the weave. You are a closed door to it." "Then why did it hurt me at all?" I asked. Siren's voice lowered. "Because it is trying to force a door into existence," she said. "It is applying pressure until something gives. You bend, you bruise, you break sometimes, but you do not unravel neatly." We reached a wide chamber with a circular floor pattern. Symbols spiraled outward from the center like a map of a galaxy drawn by a mad poet. In the middle stood a tall column of crystal, faintly pulsing. Siren stopped. She turned to her guard captain. "Seal every corridor behind us," she ordered. "Activate the resonance cages, full power. No one enters without my voice code." The captain hesitated, eyes darting to me. "Your radiance, the human is unbound." Eyes cut like knives. "Then key him," she snapped. "He is not a guest. He is not a pet. He is not a symbol." Technicians rushed to panels embedded in the stone, hands flying over controls. The crystal column brightened. A faint ring of light formed around my feet. Not tight, not painful, but present, a recognition. Siren stepped closer to me. Her voice softened again. "Elias," she said, "I owe you an explanation." I swallowed, still feeling the aftershocks in my limbs. "Yes, you do," I said, and my voice cracked. "Why me? Why a cargo worker? Why a human shield?" Siren looked at the crystal column, as if it was easier to look at anything except my face. "Because of an old law," she said. "A covenant written by ancestors who believed in destiny and punishment. It says that when the gates open for the succession rite, the queen must stand exposed, and if the old guardians awaken, the queen must prove she is not alone in blood, not alone in spirit, not alone in alliance." She finally met my eyes. "Do you understand what that means?" she asked. I shook my head slowly. "It means," she said, "that if I stand alone, the crownbreakers will judge me as unworthy. They will erase me and install a regent like Val, who will sell our worlds to the highest bidder. But if I stand with an allied species, an outsider who chooses to risk himself beside me, then the covenant forces the guardians to pause and consult the deeper protocols. It forces them to consider the possibility that the queen is supported by a bond the old world did not predict." I stared at her, stunned. "You needed a witness," I said. Siren nodded. "And a shield," she said. "Because Val would not wait for the guardians. He would kill me before their protocols could awaken fully. He tried, and you stopped him for a moment." The chamber felt too quiet. I heard my own breathing, rough and uneven. I heard the hum of the crystal column, steady like a pulse. And in that quiet, a thought hit me, sharp and painful. "You brought me here knowing I might die," I said. Siren did not flinch from it. "Yes," she said, "and I hate myself for it. But I also brought you here because I believed you might live. Because humans have done something no other species has done in our recorded history." The chamber, a deep impact shook the palace. Stone dust drifted from the ceiling. Technicians shouted. The crownbreakers were at the inner walls, breaking through. The captain returned, face pale. "Your radiance," he said. "The outer defenses are failing. The guardians are cutting through the gates like paper. We have minutes." Siren's jaw tightened. "The deep protocol has not been activated in generations. It requires a living anchor. It requires." His gaze flicked to me, and I understood before he said it. "It requires a human." My stomach turned. "What is the deep protocol?" I asked. Siren stepped closer. And her voice became the kind of quiet that meant she was telling the truth without mercy, to make them stop attacking long enough for the council to wake the ancient seals. But the binding needs an anchor that the null system cannot unravel. It needs a mind the guardians cannot read. It needs a species built from refusal. It needs you, Elias. Another impact shook the palace, stronger. Lights flickered. Somewhere far away, stone screamed as it broke. I looked at Siren, and for the first time I saw the weight she carried. Not just a crown. An entire civilization balanced on choices she never wanted to make. If I do this, I said, what happens to me? Siren's throat tightened. I do not know, she admitted. The records are old. Some say the anchor lives and becomes untouchable to null weapons. Some say the anchor is burned into history, a name carved into stone. But I swear to you, Elias, if you survive, I will spend my reign repaying what you have given. And if you do not survive, because my whole life I had been a small person in a huge machine. Cargo schedules, supervisor orders, colony politics, survival math, always reacting, always enduring. Now an alien queen was looking at me like I was the hinge on which worlds turned. The doors to the chamber trembled. A seam of light appeared as something outside pressed against it. The crownbreakers were close. Very close. Siren reached out slowly, like she was afraid I would disappear. She touched my shoulder again. Quietly, Elias, I am asking you, not commanding, asking. My chest tightened. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream that none of this was fair. That I did not sign up for alien politics and soul lances and ancient machines. That I was just a man. But then I remembered the beam hitting me. I remembered the way it tried to unmake me and could not. I remembered the guards in the courtyard, brave and terrified. I remembered Siren's voice, telling them to live, telling them not to waste the time I bought. And my voice surprised me with how calm it sounded. Tell me what to do. Siren's eyes closed for one short moment, like a prayer answered. Then she opened them, and they were steel technicians, she ordered. Bring the anchor interface online. Captain, secure the Queen's seal. No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, you do not interrupt. Panels opened in the floor around the crystal column. Light rose in thin lines. As if she could not bear the idea of forcing me, I stepped into the circle. The light climbed my legs like a soft net. It did not burn. It tingled like static before a storm. The guardians will sense you. They will try to strike you with null force. You must not collapse. You must stay conscious, even if it feels like your bones are turning to dust. Because if you fall, the binding fails. The crownbreakers will pause. Their slit will dim. They will enter consultation. And we will have a window to seal them. Another tremor. Closer now. The chamber doors buckled. A low, mechanical sound filled the hallway outside. A queen's voice designed to shape reality. She spoke in her language, and the crystal column flared bright enough to cast sharp shadows. The light around me surged. I felt the air thicken. Like a storm made of logic and death, the chamber doors exploded inward. Stone and metal fragments flew. Guards shouting, weapons up, and through the dust stepped the nearest crownbreaker. Its slit burned bright, aimed directly at me. Val's voice echoed from behind it, distant but triumphant. There is your human, he called. The null pressure slammed into me harder than before. My vision narrowed, my arms shook, my knees bent. The light net around me tightened, and inside my skull, that ancient, only raw human refusal. I dug my feet into the platform. My breath came harsh. I tasted metal, but I stayed. Siren's voice cut through everything. Calm and fierce, Elias, she said, look at me. I forced my eyes up. Her face was illuminated by the crystal column. Blue skin glowing softly, crown burning gold. Red jewel like a wound that refused to close. You are not alone, she said. You are not a tool. You are not a sacrifice. You are an ally, ally. That word hit my chest like oxygen. The pressure surged again. I felt my body scream. but my mind stayed locked. Because humans have one trick we learned long before we had starships. We endure. Siren raised her hands, palms open, and spoke the binding phrase. The crystal column responded with a deep hum. The light around me expanded outward, touching the crownbreaker. For the first time, the machine reacted. Not with aggression, but with hesitation. Its slit flickered, the null pressure wavered, and then, like a giant predator forced to reconsider, it paused. One crownbreaker paused, then another behind it, then another. The entire line of ancient guardians slowed, their movements stalling as deeper protocols awakened. Technicians shouted in disbelief. Readings spiking, consultation mode, it is working. I stayed standing, barely my lungs burned. My hands were numb. But I was still upright, still present. Still the stubborn anchor they could not unravel. Siren's guard captain roared orders. SEAL team, now. Bring the resonance cages to full containment. From the ceiling, thick bands of light dropped like invisible chains. Wrapping around the crownbreakers, the machines resisted. But their resistance was slower now, divided by their own ancient laws. The palace defenses poured power into the cages, and the air vibrated with it. Vol screamed, furious. No. He shouted, nitrogen monoxide, you cannot bind them. They belong to the old covenant. They belong to me. Siren's voice snapped back, clear and deadly. They belong to the law, Regent, not to your hunger. The nearest crownbreaker's slit dimmed, its head tilted, as if listening to something no one else could hear. Then, slowly, it lowered its arms. Not surrender, not defeat, consultation. The resonance cages tightened. The machines froze in place, locked into a suspended state. The palace tremors stopped, the alarm softened. For the first time since the gates opened, the air felt like it might allow someone to breathe. The null pressure inside me eased. My knees buckled, but Siren moved instantly, catching my arm before I hit the platform. Elias, she whispered, and her voice broke. Just a little, you did it. I tried to speak, my throat refused. My body shook like it had been through a hurricane. Siren pulled me out of the light circle as soon as I stepped away. Technicians rushed to stabilize the system. Guards surged forward to secure the chamber, and in the middle of it all, Siren held my forearm like she was making sure I was real. Val tried to retreat, but two palace guards seized him, dragging him forward. His face was twisted with disbelief. A human, he spat. A human ruined everything. I lifted my head slowly, forcing my voice out. Rough and quiet. No, I said. A human saved everything. Siren's eyes flashed. She stepped toward Val. Her voice soft but lethal. You attempted regicide, she said. You awakened Forbidden's guardians. You used the old covenant as a weapon against your own people. You will face judgment, Val sneered. And what will your people say? He hissed. When they learn you needed a human to protect you. Siren did not look away. She answered with the kind of honesty that reshapes history. They will say, she replied, that their queen had the courage to ask for help, and the wisdom to recognize strength where the old world refused to look. She turned then, back to me. Her expression shifted from queen to person again. Elias, she said, you are shaking. I tried to laugh, but it came out as a breath. Yeah, I said, I think I earned that. Siren's hand returned to my shoulder. Gentle, grounding, you earned far more than shaking. She murmured, you earned a place. In a palace that had never been meant to include someone like me. I looked past her, to the frozen crown breakers, trapped in light, paused by ancient law and human stubbornness. I realized then that the gate's opening had not just been a threat, it had been a turning point. Because the universe had just watched a human take a weapon built to unthread souls, and refuse to unravel. Siren leaned closer, voice low, meant only for me. Elias, she said, the council will arrive soon. They will ask you questions, they will doubt you, they will fear you. And some will want to use you. I met her gaze. Still exhausted, still shaking, still alive, let them. I whispered, I am done being small. Siren's eyes softened, and for a moment, the crown and the war and the palace faded. And she looked like someone standing at the edge of a future she never believed she would get to see. Then she said, quietly and with absolute certainty, neither of us is small anymore, outside, through distant stone. I heard the courtyard settling. Guards shouting orders, flags being gathered, wounded being tended, a civilization catching itself before it fell. Siren kept her hand on my shoulder, and I understood what that meant. Not ownership, not use, trust. The alien queen had asked me to be her human shield, and when the palace gates opened, I had stepped into the line of fire, not because I was brave, but because I had been given a choice. And for the first time in my life, my choice mattered to worlds. Siren turned toward the chamber's far doors, where the council would enter. She took one slow breath, straightened her shoulders, and became the queen again. Then, without removing her hand from my shoulder, she walked forward, and she brought me with her.